Welcome back, everyone. Imagine your stomach constantly hurts or being so nauseous all the time that you can't eat or drink. Some patients who see Dr. Amal Sharma at the Digestive Health Center at AU Health are so sick that they can't get out of the hospital because of the nausea and vomiting. Dr. Sharma is conducting an innovative study now using magnets to help reset a group of hyperactive nerves in the middle of the back, which he thinks are responsible for a lot of these patients' misery. And Dr. Sharma is with us today, and we're talking about gastroparesis, which affects about 2% of the population of Americans. Is that right?
Yeah, so actually less than 1%. It's a rare condition, but a lot of patients have this condition. The subset of patients with gastroparesis that we're looking at is diabetics in particular.
Okay.
There's also a group of idiopathic patients where we're not sure exactly what's going on. Not to say that we're sure what's going on with the diabetic gastroparesis patients, but the diabetics at least follow a similar pattern of pathophysiology or mechanistic problems that we can kind of uncover. So yeah, it's a very miserable condition. Imagine you're a diabetic.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
Yeah, imagine you're a diabetic and you're doing what you need to do by counting how many carbs you're consuming. You calculate how much insulin you need to give yourself.
Right.
And then you eat, and then you feel so sick to your stomach, you vomit your whole meal out, but your insulin doesn't go away. So your sugars go down and crash, and then your body responds by bringing them up. Your sugars just are really erratically controlled, going up and down like that.
Well, one of the things that you are looking at is a magnetic stimulation therapy, and it's called, is this Thor's magnet? Is that right?
Thor's magnet, right?
Thor's magnet.
So
okay.
that takes us to our Marvel days, because I love the superhero stuff. But just to take a step back, you know, we were having a number of these patients, and there's only one FDA-approved drug for this condition called metoclopramide or Reglan. And that medicine, it doesn't have very strong evidence of its efficacy, but there's an FDA black box warning that it can cause an involuntary movement of the hands and feet and a permanent tongue rolling condition. So we don't recommend using it long-term in patients that it's not really effective in. Other than that, there's a stimulator that can be implanted, but that's only for compassionate use. So really when nothing is working. Other than those two treatments, we got nothing for these patients.
Gee. So when you say compassionate, that's kind of like palliative care for someone who's about dying. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
So compassionate care is what this would be. Now you've talked about how diabetes is a major cause for the condition, but some medications can also trigger it, or after a surgery.
Yeah, so there's some post-surgical patients can have the same kind of condition and symptoms. Those patients are a little bit due to the stomach being altered. We think that they get more nauseous and vomiting, maybe some of the nerves being affected. The idiopathic group that we mentioned, not sure what's going on there. But coming back to the diabetic patients, you know, we know that diabetic patients have numbness in their fingers and their toes. Their gut is also numb. Yet if their gut is numb, what is the signal that's causing them to be so sick all the time, having so much nausea and vomiting and fullness? So we believe that there was a disconnect by what's going on the stomach level and what's being interpreted in the brain. So the two pathways that talk between the stomach and the brain, one is this big wandering vagus nerve, which is really hard to get a hold of because it just wanders throughout the gut. And then the other pathway is these spinal nerves that come into the mid-back and connect along the spinal column and talk to the brain. So that's where we decided to target our magnet.
That is fascinating. Just the way that researchers can come up with possible solutions, figuring out, let's see if this works, let's see if that works.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why these studies are so important. Right now you're conducting a 3-year, nearly $1 million study, and you're looking for, it's for 45 patients. So you're still actively looking for, I guess you want patients with diabetes and gastroparesis.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. So,
and what does it involve being a part of your study?
So they have to actually have moderate to severe symptoms of diabetic gastroparesis. I think a lot of the studies in the past have failed because they may have taken patients with minimal symptoms, and then symptoms vary over time. So we ask our patients to keep a log of their symptoms over a week, and we average their symptoms to make sure they're moderate to severe. And the study is not only done by our site, but also by Mass General and Harvard. So we have 2 sites involved in recruiting these patients.
Okay, that's really good. And is there like a control group as well? Do you have,
Yeah, so it's a funny word called sham.
Sham, okay.
Right, because we're not doing a pill that you take where you compare it to a sugar pill like a placebo.
Right.
But we have a coil that looks exactly like the magnetic stimulation we're giving that we place on patients and do a fake treatment. Because anytime you try and prove a real treatment's worthy for patients to take, you need to compare it to something that's a minimal effective treatment or no effect on the patient.
Certainly, certainly. That's interesting. So when you can't use a placebo, you use a sham.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. If you are interested in being part of this study, there's a number that we want you to call. It's 706-721-9875, and that's the research coordinator's number, and they'll be able to talk you through the steps that you would need to take. Are most of the patients that are in your study, do you already know them? Are they patients of yours, or just people who learn about it in the community?
Yeah, so we just finished year 1 of our study, so most of those patients have come from our practice because we get patients like these referred to us from a large area. But now that the word of the study is getting out, we're getting calls from faraway places and different states to participate in the study. So we're open to both avenues of patient recruitment.
And again, if you are interested in the study, you want to call the research coordinator. The number is 706-721-9875.